morning, Sandy. How are you?
Morning, Amy. I am good. I am designating this day Get Shit Done Day, so I'm pretty excited.
It's a good day when it's a get shit done day.
It's
So
gonna
today
happen.
is going to happen. Nice. So today we're going to talk about Untamed. I have the book here, and I know you've read the book by Glennon Doyle, and we participated in a book club Monday night, I believe, just this week, and got to hear some other people's insights in this book. So, what do you think? I'm just going to tell you, this book has been completely disruptive for me. Like since I've read it, there's been a lot of stuff in my head. I don't know how you're feeling, but it's just challenged so much of what I've been thinking. And what about you?
Well, I have a confession. So my confession is I chose this book, and the great thing about Amy and my relationship, both professional and personal, is we just go with stuff. I mean, there's no passive aggressive. There's no, let's change what we're talking about. I mean, there is none of that. It's a great relationship. So I thank you for that, Amy. But I like randomly picked this book and said, let's do this book. And Amy said, sure. And my confession is when I picked this book, I thought, it's about her being a mom and blah, blah, blah. Been there, done that, heard these things. I've outgrown this. My kids are raised. But you know what? For everybody else, because it seems to be a really popular book that had good reviews, I'm going to go with popular, but I'm not going to like it. I'll let everybody else talk about it. It was the biggest hidden gem ever. I related, I had to have tagged, oh gosh, I would tell you, I'm going to have to count my little post-it notes when I'm done. I bet 60 different passages. And some of them said, OMG, this is so me. Never thought of it this way. My summary is in this 300-page book, I think she tackled every topic that's come up, and she wrote this pre-COVID in the last 2 years, from racism to privilege to raising kids to entitlement to marriage to sexuality, gender, discrimination, in a very storytelling, many times funny, many times raw, many times sad. I mean, how she did all this in one book. And at the end of it, I want to go on a girls' trip with the author. I think she's my best friend. So that's
Yeah.
it. My confession and my testimonial.
I completely agree. And I'm just going to tell you, I had kind of heard of this book. Um, and when you mentioned it, I was like, okay, I had no idea what it was about. I had done no research, I didn't know anything. And I put out to friends if anybody had a copy of the book. And now after reading it, I'm like, oh, what do all those people think of me if they know what this book is about?
Right.
Because the group I put it out to, I don't know how much they would like this book. I think it would be good for them. It'd be good for everybody to read, but I don't know how much they would actually enjoy it. But one of my friends popped up and she had it. I borrowed it. Same thing. I took it on vacation though, and I didn't have anything to market. So I was borrowing her book and I was folding pages in half, like bottom up. So I know it was at the bottom of the page, top down. It was crazy, and I had to buy her a new book. When I got back from vacation, I'm like, I'm sending you a new book because I've destroyed your book.
That
But I
is a
went back,
double testimonial right there.
yeah. And I, exactly. I'm like, you need this book because I've ruined yours, but you should read this book. There were so many light bulb moments. And this morning I was going through some of my pages turned down and trying to collect my thoughts. And I was reading it again, some of the things I'd marked, and I just started to well up on some of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so thought provoking, emotional, raw, and I just appreciate
She
her.
could nail things so quickly. I'm going to throw out one thing. Okay, she was
Yeah.
talking about privilege. And I find myself when I have conversations with people, you can go on and on. I can't quite articulate what I'm trying to say, or it takes a lot. And I felt like she articulated this in 3 sentences. So this is what she said. Here's how Glennon describes privilege. Privilege is being born on third base. Ignorant privilege is thinking you're there because you hit a triple. Malicious privilege is complaining that those who are starving outside the ballpark aren't waiting patiently enough. And I didn't say it perfectly, but I was driving with Garrett to go skiing, and I told him that. He's like, that just nails it. It's just such a great metaphor on what privilege is.
Right.
And and that's Glenna. So again, to me, that kind of is a substance of one thing she talked about, how she could succinctly give. And then, she went on through the whole chapter, but she gives stories. She gives that
Mhm.
most of us can relate to her stories. I
Right.
mean, not all,
Yeah.
but most of us can relate to in our lives or people that we know.
Right. 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 One of the things that I appreciated is she continually talked about feeling the pain. You have to feel the pain. And here's a sentence on, or a paragraph on page 50, and it's like, um, it's okay to feel all the stuff you're feeling. You're just becoming human again. You're not doing life wrong, you're doing it right. If there's any secret you're missing, it's that doing it right is just really hard. Feeling all of your feelings is hard, but that's what they're for. Feelings are for feeling all of them, even the hard ones. The secret is that you're doing it right, and that you're doing it right hurts sometimes. That to me, because so many times we have those feelings and uh we shut them down and we're like, I need to move on. I need to grow up. I need to put my big girl pants on, and I need to shut this feeling down, and I need to do whatever,
Right.
move on instead of
Feeling the
feeling
pain.
feeling it. Right.
And she gave permission. So many books are, here's how you move on, here's how my life is so wonderful. She told the ugly underbelly. And not only I'll bring up, she had bulimia. And I thought I was so courageous because on this podcast I said, well, I had bulimia when I was there. It is, there's the word, I launched it out there. She went into the dark details of what that looked like in a day, and she kind of throw it out there, but she doesn't just say I did something wrong. She was an alcoholic, she was a drug user when she was young. She gave the underbelly stories and feelings without any, she showed the pain without any apologies. That was part of her pain. um this book had so much. That's because the other thing, Amy, the parenting. Okay. So let's get back to me saying, you know what? I'm past that. Her kids are younger. You know what? And I'm going to share my favorite parenting because it's so good that I'm going to share this so many times with people. I love one of her parenting chapters. But you know what she reminded me of? It doesn't matter what age you are parenting at, or even she talked about her being the child and her mother parenting and letting go and saying, I'm not always the child. Parenting is lifelong. So this wasn't about parenting teens, parenting infants. I could relate to her stories, but parenting is forever. And you could relate all of her stories to being a parent or having a parent, even if you don't have kids. Part
Right.
of this is that. But my very favorite, oh, I don't know, I hate to say very favorite
I
paragraph,
know.
but
It's so hard.
I put OMG, and I actually put like a little um uh dream thing around the memos. And I loved when she talked about, here's what she said. The name of the chapter was Memos. And it says, every generation of parents receives a memo when they leave the hospital with their baby. Here
Mhm.
was my grandmother's memo. Here's the baby. Take it home. Let it grow. Let it speak when spoken to and carry on with your lives. Here was my mother's memo. Here's your baby. Take her home. Then get together each day with your friends who have these same things. Drink tab with your friends before 4 o'clock and wine coolers after. Smoke cigarettes, play cards, lock your kids out of the house, and let them in only to eat and sleep. Lucky bastards. Here's our memo. Here is your baby. This is the moment you've been waiting for your entire life, when the hole in your heart is filled and you finally become complete. If, after you put this baby in your arms, you sense anything other than utter fulfillment, seek counseling immediately. If you hang up in your counselor, call a tutor. Since you've been speaking these 3 minutes, your child is already behind. Have you registered for Mandarin classes yet? I see, poor child. Listen closely. It is all about your baby. Now she keeps going on. But what I loved is I put a little asterisk by this. Now the goal of parenting has become never allow anything difficult to happen to your child. This is a terrible memo, and this is why our kids suck. Yes, they just suck. New memo that we should all follow. Here's your baby. Love her at home, at the polls, and in the streets. Let everything happen to her and just be near. And I'm just like, there you go. There you go. She said, and then my final note, she said, we've decided that our job as parents is to keep our child happy. No, our job as parents is to keep our children human.
Mm, yes.
How about the
Yes.
memos? I mean, the
I
memos
love
were
it. Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. The parenting piece of this, the relation, it's just so much about relationships and communications and what you're saying to your kids, to everybody. And if
it's
you're
not about giving them everything they want and making them
right,
happy.
right. Yeah, very true. So along with the parenting one, the one on where she talks about they're watching a TV show and the child during an intense scene, the family's teenager daughter was about to tell her parents that she was queer. And her parents stood around the table and they said, "We love you no matter what."
What? That was,
And she talked about that. No, don't say it. Don't say no matter what,
don't
because
say it.
that's just saying
You're
this
wrong.
is we're disappointed. This is a disappointing piece, but we're gonna love you no matter what.
Anyway, yeah.
And we're gonna, so that was a little bit like, yeah, because a lot of you hear that. We
You
love
do
you
hear
no matter
that.
what, but it's like that means they've done something wrong, that they're
Right.
not meeting expectations.
That was
Instead,
such a great point, because we always think that that's what you're supposed to say, but you love
right,
the child no matter what. I'll always
right,
love them
right.
anyway. It's that I never thought about that, Amy, and you're so right. When she said that, they were watching a show saying, "Don't say it, don't say it, don't say
Yeah,
it."
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we have to bring up the fact, back to why you made the comment, why your friends might not like it. It might be because she does drop a lot of F-bombs, but she's very raw in
Very raw.
her homosexual relationship. She was married. Little background on Glennon, and you'd find this if you Googled it quick. She had a couple of very popular books and was on a book trip that was really the Christian circuit. And it was about her getting over her vices, the bulimia, and being a happily married Christian mother who stopped drinking. And she fell in love with a woman on her book trip who happened to be Abby Wambach, a very, very decorated soccer player who was also on a book trip. And it was interesting to hear her journey about, I mean, she was literally in the middle of promoting a book to Christian groups, was her primary audience, while she was starting a lesbian relationship. And there was a lot of that because that was her relationship. So many of her stories wound around her relationship with her ex-husband, her relationship with her new wife, her kids. But it was very, very high in gender equality, gender discrimination.
Mm,
Um, I mean, the sexuality part of it.
right, right. She touched on a lot. She
And would
touched
you
on a lot.
say, Amy, when you brought up that your friends might not like it, is it because of how strong her descriptions were, or would it be the content of homosexuality versus religious beliefs?
I think it's the religious beliefs. Like
I
I think there's a group of, that just this would make them very uncomfortable.
didn't you feel like she nailed that conversation, and I haven't, I'd have to search. I have too many little notes in my
I
book
know,
to
I
find
know.
it right
I don't,
now.
I don't
But
think I have that one. I have it marked somewhere, but I don't know if I could find it. I
but
don't have it
she
right.
brought up she brought up that she was questioned by people
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
and how she described it, and Amy helped me out because I'm going to go from memory here. There were a couple different ways how she described how God was with all of us. God isn't the church. He doesn't live in the church. He's with all of us and he's accepting. And um,
We're a sea of people, and
mhm.
what we've done is we've created glasses with labels on them, and we've all said, okay, this is your label, this is my label, instead of just letting us all be free in the sea. That was kind of one
And
of
then
her
and then
announcements.
back the lady, we all loved this story back in book club. We had a great time talking about this book too. It's always a joyful book is one that you have a discussion and everybody is, there you could just it's like they're all talking about a best friend, um, and we all love the story of the lady that stood up and said, I don't get this, Glenna. you know all of a sudden my niece is going to homecoming with a girl this year and she went with the boy last year, and my nephew is now, or my son or somebody is now a girl, and why are there so many gays all of a sudden? Is
Yeah.
that new? And Glenna's answer was, it probably seems that way, but it's because we had two glasses before. You're either straight or you're gay. And most people were afraid to even say they were gay. So they just said, okay, it's A or B. So I'm A, but I'm going to secretly be B. And now we have a lot more glasses and it's more accepting. And people are acknowledging that it's not just A or B, that there's LBGQ, there's all different layers to sexuality that's not just A and B. So there are more choices and it's more accepted. So people are more open to be given to say what they truly are.
Yeah. They're more comfortable being themselves.
They're more comfortable being themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. Yes. I think she handles these subjects very well.
She's very thoughtful and she's quick and
Mhm.
clever.
Mhm.
Clever can be cruel and clever can be kind. And Glenna, her clever, she's very clever, is
She's
very
very
kind
kind,
and
Jill.
thoughtful.
Kind and thoughtful. Yes. Everybody walks away feeling better about the situation. At least that's how I felt.
Mhm.
Reading the whole thing, I felt better about the place she's in. I felt good about the place I'm in. It just was like, okay, let's just lift everybody up.
And it's one of those books too, back to but Amy says she's rereading the book. I'm kind of rereading it
I'm
because I'm
gonna
going
read
back
it.
and writing down my notes. But you can find all kinds of great YouTube videos, clips. Reese Witherspoon interviewed her and it was like a fangirl back and forth. She's very fun to listen to as well. And so you find yourself getting immersed, trying to find different clips, different
Yeah.
insight. I'm now following her on Instagram and Twitter, and when I was watching the Meghan Harry interview, I was following Glenna because I'm like, oh, she would have good insights on this. And it was kind of fun to watch her different tweets and Instagram posts on that because I'm a fangirl.
That's so fun. I am gonna dig into some videos. I haven't watched the Reese Witherspoon video yet
It's
since
cute.
you sent it, and I was like, oh, I need to do that. So I'll try to do that
I'm gonna.
today. As
There's
I
another one with her and Abby too that's really good.
Oh, good. I the bravery to move from a married woman with three children who's on the religious circuit as a religious author who steps away from all of that to be in a relationship with Abby. Like, I'm just so impressed with her bravery. That's the gist of this.
And hers is so high. She talks a lot about knowing. And I
Mhm.
liked the knowing. Knowing is deep within yourself. It's not. It's the old way, or I'd say the typical way, is look for outward acceptance, permission, and consensus, which is how she described the old way, which I think is the typical way. And
Yeah.
we've all had this in different parts. Never your point on her being courageous. I had this when I went through my divorce. Here's what's expected. Here's who you're supposed to date. Here's when that's supposed to be. In no way, shape, or form was I supposed to be dating a guy from that lived in Denver And, pretty quickly after my divorce, or really while my divorce was happening, and that isn't good for your kids and it's not good for you. And, I thought I was courageous. Hell, nothing compared to this lady. And
Yeah.
and she talked about she's not courageous by what do I want to say? She isn't one of those people that was just born courageous, that she's just always going to do what she wants. She's more of a traditionalist. Being courageous on things like this is outside of her comfort zone. So
Yeah.
back to knowing is she finally stopped worrying about acceptance and consensus. And she tells a story about how she went and laid, or not laid, she went into a supply cabinet or supply closet and just thought and just went with her gut and just said, kind of did a meditation. She came out of the supply closet, and this is when she was doing a group meeting with her team, and said, I know what we need to do. And she uses that analogy in her mind, go to the supply closet and think about what's the right thing to do. And, her whole thing with knowing now is I take orders from my own knowing, from my own being, and put everything else to the side. And from that, she comes to her conclusion, then uses courageous to act on what she knows is right and right for her
Right.
and the
Yeah.
people around her.
Well,
It's not a
yeah.
selfish thing.
And her analogy through this, the very beginning, she introduces the cougar that's caged. And that cougar's authentic self is a wild animal, and yet it's caged. And she's like, even though it's caged, it's not tamed. It's
Mhm.
still wild. It still wants to be in the wild, still wants to be its authentic self. But we've society has put it in this cage. And so I loved that analogy because it talks to the whole book of being caged, and but we're not tamed.
Right.
We're caged, but we're not tamed.
It was the perfect name for the book because you were constantly thinking back to that,
Yeah.
And
Right.
again, she is the master storyteller, but it's just so real and authentic.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. One of the stories, so and then we're going to go into some questions. One of the stories was girls versus boys. Do you remember when she talked about coming into the room and her son had some friends over, girls
yes.
and boys? And she said, "Who's hungry?" And all the boys are like, "Me, me, me, me." And they all got for food. And she watched, and the girls kind of all looked at each other to
What
get
are you going to say to
consensus.
get
Right.
acceptance? And can I say I'm hungry?
And
And
they all said, "We're good." And so, and she recognized in that moment that the boys looked inside for the answer
right,
and the girls looked out.
it was so true.
I know. Isn't that true? Because that's what we started doing when we were teenagers.
So we highly recommend reading this book.
Yes. All right. We have a couple of questions that kind of align with this book. In all of these situations that Glennon shares, there's a certain amount of bravery needed, either bravery to share the story or bravery to take action. What is the bravest thing you've ever done? Are you still afraid to do some things?
What is the bravest thing I have ever done?
So that's
What's
it.
the
To me, this
bravest
is
thing you've
an
ever done? It's
interesting.
hard to choose.
Well, so I don't look at the things I've done as brave. So isn't so I was thinking about this, and I've had some people tell me, "Oh, that was brave of you to do that." Like brave of you to start your business, brave of you to move from Kansas City to Omaha,
Right.
brave of you, like, and to me, it was it was all very logical at the time. So I I've never given myself a, "Oh wow, I'm so brave" type of check mark.
I
How about
think I think that I can think of three things off the top of my mind, top of my head, that are, boy, was my heart beating. And I kind of felt like I put my foot across that line. Like, can you do this? You got this. And I'd say, when I filed for divorce, when I got on the airplane to go on a date with Garrett in Denver, and I barely knew him.
yeah.
I mean, had been conversing, and I had met him at a conference because he was the speaker. but that was pretty brave. And I'd say the third thing was telling a reporter I was fired from a high profile job and knowing it would hit the front page of the Omaha World Herald. And being okay. And so here's the thing with all those, when it's your bravery and you choose, all three of those things sometimes make other people uncomfortable, either the outcome of the story or talking about it. But because they were my choices and my bravery, I'm never uncomfortable with any of those topics or telling any of those stories because they were my choice.
Right.
I don't know which one's the bravest.
I think they're all very brave.
But they're the three things that I remember, like, are you going to do it or
Made
not
you
do
out of
it?
your box. So all three of those things happened in the last, what, 10 years?
Oh gosh, I think it might be 12 years by now,
Well,
but
here, well,
something like that, 11 years.
the
Yes.
last 15 years.
Yep.
So 40, 40 and beyond. 40, no, you're not that
Pretty
old.
much. Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
53.
Yeah.
They
So
all
40.
happened post 50. Every one of those examples was post 50.
Post 50, post 40.
Post 40, post 40.
Okay.
Sorry.
Like
Yeah.
you're not that old. I think, and so, and even mine, well, I will say some of mine, like moving from Kansas City to here was a real step out of the box, a big leap. But there were so many good reasons to go that it made it easier.
Mhm.
So, but, and I did that as a pretty young. I don't know.
I think, Amy, you're a pretty brave person all the time. You know what I mean? And is it because you got hit with some changes like moving when you were a senior? I didn't have a lot of change in my life. And so,
change, yeah. I'm just gonna say change was easy. Sorry, I cut you off there. Change for me is easy, but am I still afraid to do some things? Yeah. There are still things that are out there that scare the bejesus out of me. And I look at my children and I just hope I'm role modeling some things for them that they can see through my fear that I'm not doing things, like, so there are still some things out there that I am not brave about. Some things are easier for me.
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And Glenna, she helps a lot in making the small things the big things and realizing that bravery comes in every day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. She wrote something. Hold on. I think I can find it really quick. Page 74. Here it is. I wrote notes on some things I wanted to share. On page 74, she wrote about the building of the true and beautiful means destruction of the good enough. Rebirth means death. Once a truer, more beautiful vision is born inside us, life is in the direction of that vision. Holding on to what is no longer true enough is not safe. It's the riskiest move. And then it says, if we are truly alive, we are constantly losing who we just were, what we just built, what we just believed, what we just knew to be true. That right there is so knowing that we have to be moving forward, and what we believe to be true yesterday may not be true today for us. Right. So anyway, beautiful. Such good stuff in this book. I love this book. So, all right. Then what's the real in these situations and what's the ideal? That's this is about a book.
She nailed both of them. That's what was beautiful about this book is she resonates with real and ideal. She does a great job of bridging those two.
I completely agree. And I would say the ideal is to pick up the book and read it.
Yeah, I love that.
And you might feel uncomfortable in places, but just feel the pain and keep reading.
Yep. Bingo.
Go through it. All right. So wrap question. April 1st is approaching. What's your favorite April Fool's joke you've initiated or been fooled?
I am terrible at that. I'm not a good jokester. How about you? You go and I'll see if I can even think of anything.
So I was trying to remember. My kids used to always do jokes like every year. But one year we were out to dinner at Applebee's. This is the funniest thing that's ever happened. And we were having cheese sticks, the
Mhm.
mozzarella cheese
Yep.
sticks, and you know how they're kind of gooey in the middle. Well, one of the girls, Reagan, actually, she had a piece in her fingers and she put it like down in her lap, and then she was like, "Oh, gum," and stuck it in her mouth.
That is
Pretended it
funny.
was gum. I thought Tom was sitting next to her and he was like, "Oh my gosh." And then she was like, "I'm kidding. It was just cheese."
April
But
Fools.
we both were like, "What just happened?" So anyway, that was
Very
the funniest
clever.
thing.
Very,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever done anything. My brothers are both jokesters, and I can't think of an exact time. I'm like one that jumps on the bandwagon and laughs with everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, they're always teasing me, and I'm pretty gullible, so I usually believe most everything. I think I'm on pretty high alert on April 1st because I
Yeah.
don't like to be taken by surprise, so I believe nothing.
You believe nothing. I love that. I will tell you, my brother sent us a note one time on April 1st, and it was he and his current wife were splitting up. And this was way back when, and it was for real. And I was like, Roger, you don't send those notes on April 1st.
Right.
I was like, I did. I was reading it going, is this a joke? This is a horrible joke.
This is a
And it
horrible
was
joke. Why are you
real.
doing that? Oh my gosh.
I
Do
know.
the
It was
opposite. Don't
yeah.
even, don't try. Maybe just no comment on April 1st.
Right, right. Just everybody keep to yourself.
Right. Right.
All right.
All
Thanks
right,
for the great
Amy.
conversation, Sandy. We will talk to you
Okay,
later.
until next week.